Tonight, let's declare that in the wealthiest nation on earth, no one who works full-time should have to live in poverty, and raise the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour. We should be able to get that done.
And link the minimum wage to inflation. Sounds good, right? 19 states have a higher minimum wage than the national one. Expect pushback, though. We're already hearing complaints from small business owners who will be paying more for employee insurance under Obamacare. And from Congress, House Budget Chairman Paul Ryan says linking the minimum wage to inflation will only hurt, not help the working poor. So the talkback question, should the minimum wage be raised? And I'm going to start with you, Ross, but just keep in mind, when the president mentioned raising the minimum wage, the Twitterverse went crazy. 24,000 tweets per minute. People are very into this topic. So I'll ask you, should the minimum wage be raised?
Well, there are two problems with raising the minimum wage as a policy to help low-income Americans. And the first is the possibility that you end up with businesses cutting back on hiring, basically saying, well, we aren't going to be able to hire that extra worker, obviously at a time of high unemployment and particularly high low-skilled unemployment. And there's a lot of debate about this among economists, but there's at least some possibility that that's a real problem. The other problem is you encourage off-the-books hiring, right? You encourage people to say, well, I'll hire you for $7 an hour, but I'm not going to, you know, pay taxes on it, report it, and so on. And this links up in certain ways to the debate over illegal immigration, where if we're trying to move people out of the shadows, if President Obama supports a path to citizenship and so on, policies that encourage a black market in labor could end up having the opposite effect. That said, it is a real problem. I think there are just other ways to boost incomes, things like the payroll tax cut, which both parties sort of allowed to expire during the last budget debate, the earned income tax credit, basically policies that end up increasing take-home pay without penalizing employers, I think, are a better way to go about that.
Okay, so Van, even if you raise the minimum wage to $9 an hour, people would still be living in poverty. They'd only be making about $18,000 a year.
But they'd be making a couple thousand more than they would have. Here's the thing. This is almost like sort of an article of faith for the various parties. Luckily now, there's actual statistical data. You've got 5 major studies. You've got 35 times now where states have raised the minimum wage. 21 times those states actually beat the average when it comes to economic performance. So the idea that this is somehow going to tank economies, hurt economies, not true. The other thing that I think is really important to point out is that on the one hand, it may make it harder for that one more marginal hire at first, but more people are going to be walking around with money in their pockets, and so that same store owner is going to have more customers. The other thing I think has not been talked about at all, and I don't know why, we have now, the top 500 companies in America have $1.5 trillion in cash that they're just sitting on. These are not companies that are being taxed to death, regulated to death, they can barely hold on. They're sitting, the top 500 companies right now are sitting on $1.5 trillion in cash. If those companies are encouraged to pay their workers a little bit better, that's more money into the economy, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, but Jason, you can encourage business owners all you want to pay people more, but they look at their bottom line. They're in it to make money.
Right. And if you can pay somebody in India $2, that's what they're going to do, unfortunately. And usually our members of Congress, both on the right and left, let them get away with it. Look, here's the issue. If you're going to raise the minimum wage, there are going to be some businesses that are negatively affected. It also becomes more expensive. But here's the larger issue. $9 an hour, $18,000 a year. What people really need, what the poor really need in this country is functional health care. What the poor really need in this country is halfway decent streets. What poor people actually need in this country is mass transportation that's affordable. What's $9 an hour if I'm paying $3.50 a gallon for gas? So I think there are other things that we can do. Minimum wage, improving it is great. But there are other ways that people can be helped, that Obama could get involved in, that will also bolster the value of a minimum wage increase. I don't think this should be the beginning and the end of the story.
But Ross, anything the president, comes up with has to make its way through Congress. And when he mentioned this minimum wage, there was already a rumor going through that Paul Ryan rolled his eyes.
Was it a rumor, or can we confirm it on videotape? I mean, I think that this is, the State of the Union included a few policies that might have some chance of actually passing. It included a number of things that the president intends to do by executive order. And then you had a lot of issues like the minimum wage, where he's basically laying down a marker and trying to, in certain ways, you could say, move the center left. I think there's sort of a policy vacuum on the right now. Republicans still don't have a clear alternative agenda of their own, and I think the president sees an opportunity, even with bills that aren't necessarily going to pass, to say, here's what I want to do for the working class. Here's what I want to do for the middle class. And if Republicans say no, then, well, we'll go beat you in 2014.
Okay, Van, go ahead, button it up for us.
But this idea, for say this is a left-wing idea, this is the most popular idea in American politics. 85% of Americans agree that this was the most popular line in the speech, even more so than guns. This is dead in the middle center. It's just that the right now is so far to the right that it seems that it's a left-wing idea to do something that 85% of the country wants to do.
Okay.
I guess I'd just say something can be left-wing and popular, right? I mean, you know.
and it's a good idea. I don't think anyone
happens.
disagrees with that.
Woo! We have like Nirvana now. Okay, we want to hear from our Facebook friends. The Talkback question: should the minimum wage be raised? This from Bernicia. You're doggone right, it should be raised. Slavery ended years ago. Supposedly hourly workers usually do the most work. And this from David: only if you want the cost of everything sold in America to go up. Employers will have to pass the higher wage costs on to the consumers. Please keep the conversation going. Facebook.com/CarolCNN or tweet me at CarolCNN. Last Talkback question of the morning: is giving the State of the Union response the political kiss of death?